So then, a little bit earlier than I was expecting, actually, we have the balance patch manifesto from the man, the myth, the legend, Josh Grouch Davis. Let's take a look, shall we? Hi all, we're back with an update regarding the June 28th balance changes and our next steps, which is really quick, by the way. They pushed this one out the door, didn't they? In this post, we'll outline our plan for the next month and provide a preview of a small balance update coming later today. Our earlier forum post on this topic can be found here. In just a few hours, we'll be releasing a hotfix update that includes changes for the Elementalist, Engineer, Revenant, and Ranger. These changes are previewed at the bottom of this post. For context, hotfixes are emergency updates that typically focus on addressing bugs, crashes, and exploits in the latest release. Because of the short dev time for this hotfix, less than 24 hours, yeah, they were great. They were responding. And that actually in itself is very cool to see, right? There's been a lot of anger, a lot of upset regarding this patch, right? And honestly, development is very, very difficult. Big kudos to ArenaNet for being this fast. This is fucking fast, right? Considering that they're trying to arrest balance, and that's quite an analytic thing to go through. They don't go through the multi-week release process that we normally use to increase the stability and quality. This means today's balance changes are smaller in scope and lower risk, so in other words, they won't break the game. We felt that it was appropriate to bend the rules a bit to make progress on your concerns rather than wait for the next scheduled release. Yeah, that's a Giga Chad move. That's Giga Chad. Oh yeah. Next week. Last Monday, I mentioned we'll be drafting the design notes for the June 20th release. We've made some progress, but we chose to refocus our time on today's hotfix and future planning. We'll share the design commentary sometime next week. Monday is a holiday. Okay, yeah, so it's going to be maybe Tuesday. Well, I mean, let's say middle of the week, Wednesday, right? We'll just spitball and assume middle of the week. That's pretty cool. That would be a really fun poster. I'm really looking forward to that one, actually. After today, our next opportunity to make changes will be the July 19th release. The build for this release is already locked down and moving through the pipeline, so we don't have much time to make changes here. Our priority here will be to address Furious Burst, the Warriors plus 5% critical chance rate that's currently residing in the arms specialization. We may make additional changes in this release as we continue to monitor game metrics and your feedback. From development best practice standpoint, we'll be focusing our attention on the following release. Okay, so that actually reads like they're potentially going to be moving that trait. They may move it to say strength or discipline or hell, you know, maybe they'll even move it in tactics or something like that. That's very cool. I mean, that probably is one of the most egregious changes that definitely upset the poor old warrior mains, that's for sure. As we mentioned earlier this week, we've added a follow-up balance to our update schedule for August 2nd, a day before my birthday. Fantastic. For that release, we'll be looking at addressing warrior banners and Chronomancer's relatively low damage output. See, this, seriously, this is really weird to me. Okay, because I'm not going to ignore the elephant in the room. They have mentioned really key things here. And I'd expect them to notice the warrior banners kind of being shit. But the fact they notice that Chrono's damage output is low, yeah, they kind of know what's going on here. I like that. And maybe it's because the community's been yelling at them. But yeah, that's very good. Those are some two key issues there, I think, actually, to actually talk about. Through Chronomancer's traits and increasing the damage on core weapons, like the treatment Ranger is getting today. Ooh. Once we release today's hotfix, we'll move on to planning the details of the update. Yeah, it's great stuff. I mean, it's a bit rough for poor old Warriors because, I'm not gonna lie, like, Warrior got hit the hardest in the patch by far, not even close, actually. And banners are really, really horrible to use currently, and that build in general is just pretty weak. So to be frank, yeah, that is a bit sucky, but I mean, hey, it's 1 month. 1 month to wait for the Warriors, but hey, I mean, hopefully there'll be some really good changes there. I hope they actually go hard, right? I'd like to see them almost like over buff it, right? Make it a bit stronger. Maybe make it a trait like whenever you drop a banner, you apply barrier or something like that. Like, I kind of want to see them go hard, right? I want them to go really hard here, actually. Because I think Warrior deserves to have a really strong support build, but we'll see. The next major professions update is slated for October 4th. Oh, we're going to have some fun times in August, October. The release date are also such a change. A public preview of that update and its design goals will be given well in advance. Yes, let's go. Iteration feedback. As promised, prior to that release, we'll also share the long-term vision for Guild Wars 2 profession balance and how it applies to PvE, PvP, and World vs. World. This, honestly, is a really important one to me. I think that developers communicating their vision on balance, this is fantastic. Well, I hope. We really need to see this, in my opinion, because a lot of time when I look at changes, and honestly, when I look at the state of the game, I go, what did ArenaNet want here? It is a bit wonky sometimes. It is a little bit weird. You can kind of figure it out a little bit, but yeah, I would really like to see, just lay it out. This is what we want the game to look like. This is how it's going to be. Great. Wrapping up, I especially learned a lot this week. We're actively discussing ways to prevent situations like this from happening again. Thank you for your patience and support. Hey, that is good stuff. And I like that. It's a very humble response there. That's fantastic stuff. It really is. Very cool indeed. And now, let's go ahead and leap into the notes. In the June 28th update, the Zephyr Speed trait was updated to grant 5% critical chance, but it was only active while the player is an air achievement. Staying in one achievement doesn't match with the gameplay of the Elementalist profession. That is actually humorous, okay? I like that. I like that it's not completely dry, okay? That's a good meme there. We've updated the trait to apply critical chance in all achievements. I mean, perfect, right? The movement speed buff from Zephyr Speed still only applies while tuned to air. Yeah, great. I think what they honestly could have done is almost like made this trait made a trait in air make Fury better. There's a lot of traits that make Fury better, so kind of going in that direction could have been one, but I guess they wanted to make it like an easier design thing to do, right? So then maybe we'd see them change that down the line. Is now active regardless of achievement. Note this. It's not updated to match new functionality. This will be yeah, they haven't fixed the text yet. That's fair enough. Tempest was given access to Alacrity via the Lucent Singularity trait in the June 28th update. We've seen some interesting build experimentation since then, but we feel that the current base Alacrity duration from the trait is too short to be fully effective. We're increasing it slightly today, and we'll keep an eye on it for further adjustments. So 6 to 7 seconds here. You know, this build, a lot of people are talking about Heal Tempest with Alacrity. I find that build a little bit questionable. I don't think it's quite good enough, honestly. But the DPS build here, I think, is really interesting, actually. Specifically, the build that is basically like a Ritualist build or even a Celestial build. I think that build actually is really good. This helps it along very nicely, and you'll certainly have an easier time then. The Alacrity uptime was definitely tight, doing like a standard rotation with decent boon duration. This will definitely make it a lot easier to maintain that. I think this might be a slight overbuff, but I'd like to see them increase the duration of the Might on Fire Overload, or just make it 3 stacks flat out. I don't think that would be unreasonable. I'd like to see the hybrid build of Tempest do 25 Might really easily, and also provide Alacrity and Vigor and Regen and Fury and Prot there. I think that kind of moves up. Yeah, Aftershock giving stability could be very interesting actually as well. I think some stability access on Tempest is almost mandatory. Because the thing is, there's so much stab access on the key builds like Firebrand and Mech, they almost have to kind of throw it in there. So yeah, that would be very cool indeed. Engineer. With the updates to Rifle and Aim-Assisted Rocket, we want to increase the viability of power Mechanist builds by building synergy between Aim-Assisted Rocket and Mech Arms Jade Cannons. We overshot here. Since the Mech also gains the benefit of the Aim-Assisted Rocket trait, it's adding a large amount of passive damage that does not require direct player input, and has caused the Mech pet to deal more damage than we'd like. We plan on making further specific adjustments to Aim-Assisted Rocket on our August 2nd update. Before then, we're making some quick corrections by reducing the damage output of the pet's auto attacks, particularly with Jade Cannons. We're also reducing the range of the Rifle ability jump shot to keep enterprising engines from going places where they don't belong. By the way, this is specifically referring to, you could like leap into like keeps and towers in World vs. World. Quite funny, but also quite broken. So yeah, that's, I mean, it's a good change, right? Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why it's 800. So yeah, the range is down to 900, back to where it was on 800. And they actually nerf the damage a lot. It's like nearly a 50% nerf on Mech Arms. And yeah, just in general, like around like a 33% kind of ish nerf on Mech auto attacks, just in general here as well. People have actually done the numbers on this, by the way, guys. On the DPS Mech build, it's around a 2.8k DPS loss. So to be clear, Rifle Mech is still a very powerful build. Power Rifle Mech is excellent. It's actually really funny. I think maybe Mech was not the ideal class to get this on, but Mech basically is range Scourge. You know, we've been complaining that there's no good range power builds, and to be clear, this is now a ranged power build that also has decent utility with healing turret and so on. So honestly, a build like this actually is good for the game, kind of, right? Like kind of this power Scourge counterpart, like more builds for different professions that exist in that kind of space would be good for sure, to be clear, but this certainly tones it down a little bit, which is good. And the quickness uptime, the self-quickness uptime is down just across the board everywhere else. This was pretty insane, actually. Like you really could self-quickness yourself very effectively and sustain very nicely. So yeah, it was a pretty crazy trade, to be honest, but yeah. There we go. And let's take a look at Ranger. Solby's damage output previously relied on lining up a burst window while the skills at Sikkim and One Wolf Pack were active, paired with the damage from the offhand axe skills Whirling Defense. Outside of this, Solby's have low sustained damage. This created a high skill floor for playing the specialization effectively, making it difficult to create strong baseline performance for players who did not execute on or were not aware of the mechanics to produce this damage window. In the June 28th patch, One Wolf Pack was changed to have a lower but more consistent impact on damage output. As a result, Solby's power damage builds have significantly dropped in performance. Now that the obfuscating factor of this burst window has been reduced, there's a lot of room to improve damage on core ranger weapons that Soul Beast and Core Ranger can use. These will improve sustained damage in normal ranger play and give options that can help nudge Soul Beast builds closer to high-end viability. I actually do want to criticize this a little bit here. I'm not a huge fan of this. This idea here, I think, is a little sad. Okay? Because this is lowering the skill floor, but to be clear, it's also lowering the skill ceiling as well, right? Which I think kind of sucks. I think that's not ideal. And that's honestly the criticism I have of the changes. I don't mind lowering the skill floor. In fact, I'm in favor of that. I think that's really good. But the problem is here is that it is lowering the skill ceiling as well, which definitely sucks. It's a less interactive build. It's less fun to play in that regard, and rewards a player less for being good at it, which I think is very unfortunate. However, I do respect what they're trying to do here and kind of making the game more accessible with a lower skill floor, which I think is good. I think it is good to do this across the board. However, I think they could maybe consider trying to apply a bit more of the skill cap back into Soul Beast and back into some of these builds like Firebrand Signet Sharing or Dragon Hunter Signet Sharing and so on. I think changes like that definitely feel really bad from a high-level play standpoint, from a hardcore player, even though people don't mind like the build getting nerfed. People don't mind like the skill floor being lowered. What people don't like is the skill ceiling going down. That just kind of feels like a bit of a kick in the teeth to the hardcore scene. So that's kind of the thing there for sure. But there we go. And let's see what they did here. Longbow auto attacks from 0.7 to 0.9 to 0.9 to 1.1. That's actually a significant buff. I mean, are you going to be like spam autoing on long range shot on longbow? Probably not. But that definitely helps, when you're away from the boss. And greatsword damages up a little bit there. And enduring swing, I believe, is the final attack, if I'm not mistaken. Like that's the first and last, I think. Maybe it might be the second attack. There is also a bit more damage there as well. I love to see that. Huge gameplay, huge content. Shortbow. Shortbow, the power damage is up. Nice. Bleed duration when not stat flanking, increasing from 1.5 to 2 seconds in PvE only. Higher skill floor. No, lower skill floor, right? But lower skill floor is it's easier to get into, right? Like if you lower the skill floor, it means you can climb onto it easier, right? Higher skill ceiling is you have like more you can do. There's more scope there as well. Axe main hand damage is up there as well. Holy shit. Split blade is like mega buffed. Holy shit. Oh my god. And Winter's Bite is also giga buffed there as well. That's a very, I guess Axe is a bit of a weird weapon because it's kind of like it's very hybrid. It's like power and condi. So I guess this is like a change like, oh yeah, you're going to play this so you can almost like, all the rangers who like playing Axe main hand are going to do way more damage now. And then sword as well. Just wow, damage is like across the board buffed. And this certainly does give some damage back to Soul Beast, right? Is it going to be winning any like Omega OP contest anytime soon? Probably not really. But yeah, there you go. Yeah, I mean, Axe, I guess, is pretty good now. That's a lot of damage, actually. Like, if you land all these attacks. That's a lot, because that's per hit, right? So Split Blade is fucking crazy, right? So you can hit 5 times. That's a 2.5 power scale, no? It's actually really strong. That's a lot of damage. Actually, there's definitely some interesting options there for sure on this. And sword damage is up pretty big, actually, as well. Wow, yeah, some really big damage on the auto attack. A lot more damage there on the sword auto attack. So certainly Soul Beast definitely getting back into there with some of these weapon changes. Dagger off and a bit more damage too. Ah, Revenant. We've added the missing 5% critical hit chance via traits in PvE. Roiling Miss. Increase the critical chance applied from this trait from 20% to 25% in PvE only. Yeah. This is going to sound a little bit weird, but I actually wish they'd gone a little bit harder with the crit, giving back the crit. Because some of these classes actually don't have the easiest time crit capping anyway. So I think they could have been pretty generous in general. Almost like enabling some dragon stats as well. Because that, again, like, I really like dragon stats and ritualist stats. It's a shame you can't get them. Might want to look at that one, by the way, ArenaNet. Hey, any devs in the chat, did you guys know it's literally impossible to get a ritualist ascended back piece? Actually doesn't exist in the game. Meme. But anyway, yeah, like, accessibility of those gear stats aside, I really like stuff like that because, again, it doesn't necessarily make builds like crazy stronger in a big sense. But what it does do is it makes the games a little bit easier to play. And I think that's really cool. So I think kind of going a little bit overcap, making it easier to crit cap. Some builds like Reaper and some builds like Herald actually don't crit cap super easily. So I think going overboard a bit, like maybe going to 8%, right? Very funny, Grouch. Very funny. Okay, yeah. Okay, I had that one coming, right? I walked into that one. Ouch, ouch, ouch. Very funny, very funny. Okay, He's making fun of us for not killing the CM. Okay, yeah. Okay, ooh, and the quickness duration is here as well. The June 28th update introduced a source of group quickness to Herald via the Draconic Echo trait. But the skill rotation is very tight, there's little room for error, which can result in reduced uptime on quickness. We're increasing the duration of quickness applied by Draconic Echo to improve build viability here. 1.5 to 2 seconds. I don't really have much to say here. I think I want to see this go to 2.5. I don't think I'm talking crazy stuff there. I believe I want to see 2.5 here. Like, 2 to me still doesn't feel quite good enough with that to give you, like, real flexibility on your rotation. I think I'd also like to see some baseline damage increases to Herald just overall. I think it's a little bit on the low. But yeah, certainly 2.5 to 3 here. So I think it's a slight underbuff. And bear in mind, Herald also loses Assassin's Presence, and that's actually a really big hit to its kind of group value, essentially, because it already provides, you know, you can already do Might, and like Might is very common to get now. So I think Herald in particular needs to get some, honestly, buff the auto attack, right? Buff the sword auto attack on Herald. I'm not joking, by the way, guys. I'd probably buff sword auto attack and sword 2, right? I think it's good that sword 2 is good to use if you use it correctly. Sword 2 is actually not good to use if you use it poorly, actually. So that's kind of like a skill thing for sure, but I'd buff sword auto attack and I'd buff sword 2. Just to give it a bit more, like just a little bit more. It needs like another, well, actually, I'm going to say it probably needs like 5k, to be honest, actually. Like another 5k DPS. Maybe buff impossible odds. Or, honestly, this would be a crazy idea. This would be weird, but maybe. If you actually made Jalis best in slot for DPS, that is huge. Why? Because one, you become incredibly tanky, and then you also have stability in your rotation with the dwarf road, right? With the Jalis road. That would actually make Herald very fucking tasty, actually. Because stability is one of those really high value boons that you really want. Your firebrands, your mechs, right? That have this value. I think bringing it on a Herald, okay. Now you're kind of a little bit closer now you're a little bit closer towards where we want to be competing with Firebrand, right? Okay, nice. That would be a build. And gamers, I actually want to comment here a little bit. It's okay to overbuff things sometimes. I think it's okay if Firebrand isn't best in slot. That's a radical idea. I think it's okay if they actually overbuff Tempest, and Tempest is best in slot for Alacrity, as a hybrid and as a healer, right? Because, guys, I don't know if you've noticed, Mech and Firebrand have been best in slot since launch. Firebrand has been best in slot since like 3 years ago. I think it's okay if they actually overbuff. Honestly, I'd like to see them overbuff Warrior. In fact, I would actively advocate for them to overbuff Warrior. Obviously not like dumb OP, right? But I'd like to see them overbuff it. Because I think support Warrior... When has support Warrior been good in PvE, guys? Right? When has that ever been good? Right? Oh, also, there is one thing that I think they need... Okay. I want to get... I probably won't go over this in super big detail now, but I definitely want to talk about it when I do a full balance overview, coming very soon, by the way, gamers. I think banners with quickness need a full rework. And I really hate to say that. Quickness application on a base class is pretty damn unhealthy. And we actually see this looming already. So, ArenaNet don't like the catalyst stacking, right? The catalyst stacking stuff with like the quickness, with no boon duration. You can do this with Bladesworn right now, actually. If you take Tactics Bladesworn, you actually bench around 37k DPS, and you also give around like 30% quickness uptime. So we're actually already back to square one. So I actually really do think that ArenaNet need to seriously think about how quickness works on Warrior, because it's already in a icky design space. To be honest, I really think that ArenaNet need to look at an elite specialization of Warrior and rework it a bit and add some support to it. I think that is the way to do this, to be honest. Maybe look at Spellbreaker and give quickness to Spellbreaker on the goddamn meditation skills or some bullshit, right? Or something like add some traits there that can somehow give quickness there, or whatever. Or I mean, on Bladesworn it'd be pretty disgusting, to be honest. But I mean, yeah, like something like that. Hey, it's their job to come up with the ideas, right? But I do think that Spellbreaker, Warrior in particular, I think they really need to they need to look at the design here, because I think banners are a really icky design, just in general. Like, the rework, it sucks. Let's be honest here, it sucks. So yeah. But overall, I really like how responsive ArenaNet has been here. This is fantastic stuff. It really is. Some very solid hotfix changes here, kind of addressing some of the key issues. And you can kind of see a bit of the design vision creeping through here. And actually, I'm going to end this video on a really hot take. Angels did a little graphic of this. I might even try and find it so we can overlay it on the video. I think it would be really, really good if every class had a weapon that auto-attacked for around 20k DPS. Now, hear me out here. I'd love to see... And I think ArenaNet agree with me because of the rifle change on NG. Okay? Now, I still think that skill should take you all the way to 35 or 40 or whatever ArenaNet want to do. Right? But I really think that... Look... Everyone always complains about this. The game is too hard for new players, right? People struggle, right? Like, people can't, people can't play Ellie, they can't play NG, they can't do X, they can't do Y because they're having difficulty learning the game. So why not buff every class to have an auto attack with 20k DPS, still have the skill takes you to 35 to 40, right? But make it so there is this baseline that massively lowers the skill floor and makes the game more accessible. I would actually really like to see that in this next major update. I think that would actually be a huge change. And we actually see them starting to move in that direction with stuff like this axe change here on Ranger, these sword changes here on Ranger as well, and so on, right? And I would like to see that across the board, because that's where Mech is, right? Like, Mech is in this situation now with the rifle, well, NG, right, with the rifle auto attack. It's kind of like 20k DPS in that sort of region. Why not make that on Catalyst, right? Why not make Catalyst 20k DPS auto attack? Why not? You still have to play really well to get 40k. So there's still a huge skill component. You can double your DPS by playing really well. No? Right? Honestly, let me know what you guys think in the comments, right? Comment section on YouTube, okay? Let's go. Let's go big. Let's go hard, right? Look how angry the chat is. I've already triggered the chat, but let's see what the YouTube comments say. But anyway, that's it. Good post here from the game. And honestly, I like it. Nice and late night, bloody like 40, midnight here. Okay, from Grouch. I like that. Very good stuff. I'm looking forward to the next updates. In particular, I'm really looking forward, actually, to the update, kind of going through the entire balance philosophy. Yeah, awesome. It looks like it is going to be a blog post. I would love to see a stream. I really like it when ArenaNet do streams with, like, CMC, for example, or even Grouch himself talking on stream. I'm not saying my stream, just on, like, the Guild Wars 2 channel. I think that's really cool. I think it really humanizes the developers, and I think it's a better form of communication than kind of text in a lot of ways. But yeah, really excited for that. Very cool stuff. Great late night update here as well. And like I said, thanks for watching, gamers. Follow, subscribe, hit the notification button, guys. Do it. Just do it. Hit that notification button, gaming, and get all these videos directly into your mind whenever they get released. But yeah, that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you think of my insane ideas and, of course, of this post. Take it easy, gamers. I'll see you next time. Nice.